Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill, got another video for today, and this one's going to take more of a serious tone. I had some questions, but it's all but confirmed now, based on what we've seen, is that we have another departure of a developer from DC Universe Online, and that is Landon Falls, who was the senior executive producer of DC Universe Online. He was the one that always did the development updates, kind of gave direction for the game in terms of expectations. And now, with him leaving probably at least December 22 or earlier, the last activity we have is December 2022, which, I mean, doesn't necessarily count for on the forums, but the more important thing is that it explains why MEPS did the development update in January, especially a bit early too, because it normally comes in February. But the mounting concern is that now we're missing the executive producer position. We are missing the creative director. We're missing the lead designer and the art director. So these are major positions. I mean, I know they've hired or maybe either hired or promoted within, but there's definitely some new developer names that have popped up in the last like 4 or 5 months. But in terms of like the major positions, the one that actually matters within the game's direction are all missing. So we had Batuba leave by February 2021. We had Sharon leave in June 2022, and then now Panduras. So right now, DC doesn't have any sort of direction. And this is kind of amplified by the fact that that development update was so lacking. We have the new episode, which was probably already in development, because I mean, these start like months previously in terms of like everything, like all the little aspect of it. It's not like they just started working on it like a month ago. So they knew episode 45 was coming. Because I'm sure they had to go with like approval of everything else to use shock and everything else and the assets and whatnot. I mean, on the attack on Anti-Monitor and the Valentine's event, I mean, that's a given. Those are every year. Same with the Springtime, same with the Tides of War, Save the Universe, Homecoming. Those are all like yearly events. That's not going to change. We have episode 45. We had this new emote system, which I'm sure too had some kind of pre-development, so they're already working on that. And really, that's not like a major game change. It's just adding like an emotes system. And then episode 46, which I mean we don't have announced. Episode 47, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, like the new console development. So besides that, there is no direction. We don't have anything that we actually require, like a supercharged revamp. We don't have anything we require, like a weapons revamp. We don't have anything like an artifact revamp. We have artifact buffs of the ones not being used, so they can justify, players spending more money on them, like Lazarus Pit and stuff like that. But I mean, that's not artifact balancing at all. So that's where it concerns me greatly, because I don't know what kind of direction the game's going to have going forward. Who's making the decisions? Like, who's deciding what to work on what or what to allocate to what? Because, like, these are all major positions that we're missing. And if we go to them, like, they're all, like, the reason why they haven't maybe found replacements, they're looking for, like, 10 years plus of production. If we go to the creator director, same thing, like 10 years plus experience. Where was that? 10 years of direct game experience. I mean, art director, probably the same thing. 5+ years of experience. The aspect, the DC Universe Online is a game that was developed back in like 2010, released in 2011 on Unreal Engine 3, and they can't do a port to like Unreal Engine 3 to 5, which is what people would be like, new developers or studios striving for, because it's not plug and play. They would have with all the legacy code and everything else in DC, they would have to design it again from like the ground up to be able to support like a new engine. So that would be basically creating DC Universe Online 2 at that point. So, and of course, they're limited in terms of what they can provide with the Switch being attached. They still have PS4 support. So it's not, they still have these older systems they have to be able to deal with. They can't just, disregard all the PS4 players, disregard all the Switch players. Like, you can't just take the game to like this new engine without being able to support that. So, that's my worry. Like, I know we're gonna have this episode, and it's probably gonna, like I said, it has like one raid, like one alert, like one artifact, probably one ally, stuff like that. But in terms of what the future of this game will look like, and I'm not even talking about future as in like years, like what this game's gonna look like in 1-2 years. I'm thinking like 3 to 4 months. What does it look like? And DC Universe Online is probably one of the least transparent games I've ever known. I mean, other players that play other MMOs can speak to this, but for me personally, we don't know who leaves and who comes and until we see new names on the forums, or if you have some kind of contact within DC where they can kind of tell you what's going on. So they would never come out and say that Batuba's left or Sharon's left or Pandaris is left. The only way they actually do that is if there's some kind of forum post, and then eventually someone like Maps or another dev, or usually Pandaris, would say yes, they've left and yada yada yada. Like, there's absolutely no upfront conversation whatsoever with the development team in DC. And I mean, that's a topic for like another video, but they're definitely not transparent. So they were never going to tell us that their executive producer left. They're never going to tell us that like their creative director left or their lead designer, because I think Sharon was more lead designer than creative director. Creative director, I don't even know if they've had one since what's her face left. I'm drawing a blank on her name. I don't know, you can mention in the comments. It's not like, once again, I think I covered her in a video and her contributions to DC. But same thing, I don't think they refilled her position when she left. And then when Sharon left, Sharon was lead designer, and then now we have executive producer. So, and art director, we already had like Oceans leave. We had like, so there's that kind of support in terms of they were always doing stuff online, not even like the Extra Life event, but also like just logging on DC, spawning some bosses and giving out some rewards and stuff like that. That was all like Megzilla and Oceans doing that stuff. So this is definitely worrying. I mean, I'm not sure what other games are going through like a max exodus in terms of like either to a different studio or just moving on from the game because they may know stuff that we don't. I mean, yeah, Dimensional Link should have had more of like a cash influx when they canceled the Marvel game that was coming out and that was developing, and then all those assets would be shifted over to DC, and maybe that's where these developers that the new names have appeared have just been shifted from the Marvel game to DC, and they were already a part of Dimensional Link. That I don't know of, or they were just hired and promoted from within. But in terms of like, I've been around this game since the beginning. In terms of like developer names that are still there, I mean, we've got Kotoxic, which is he just like we can count on him in terms of his production quality. I'm not worried about that. But other than that, we have Meps. We have Meps, the community manager, and we have one developer. The rest is pretty much all brand new, that to my knowledge, or within like 6 months. So, I mean, I don't know how else to take this. I mean, all I can keep doing is playing the game. But in terms of me specifically, like, you guys know me, I'm always striving to improve the game. I'm always pushing for like new stuff on test. I'm always pushing for changes. I'm always pushing for balancing updates, power set updates. I mean, we haven't had power sets updated since Batuba. So there's not been a single updated power set since like February. Before that, probably like mid 2000, probably 10. No, but not 2010. Sorry, 2020. Because Batuba was leaving like January, February 2021. So obviously he wasn't working on stuff at that point. So yeah, we haven't really had any power sets updated since 2020 because that was Batuba working on all that. Sharon did some stuff. Sharon did like the pet system. So I mean, I know we're not going to get any kind of good like tier 3 pet or henchman. I mean, you guys saw like the mummies and like those doctors come out henchmen that we got. They were awful. Sharon did like the orbital strikes and supply drops. We haven't seen any of those new in a while. So it's, I mean, certainly with survival mode, Kotoxic took on it this time because the previous developer left for that. So it's just, I'm sure we're still going to get the par for the course. Like obviously we're going to get the seasonals. We're going to get like one new event here, another new event probably in Q3. So that's towards like probably middle of summer. But even if they start to hire all these people, we're not going to see any kind of game direction for at least like a year in terms of, and that's another year with like no power set changes. That's another year plus of like no, like everyone's wanting a new power set. I'm talking about even like basic changes to like artifacts or power sets, because either they have a skeleton crew of the development team or they're going to be middle of training people, or they're going to have to pull off everyone just to kind of work on the episodes. So it's definitely worrying because some of these positions have been open for quite some time. And like I said before, if you're in the industry for 10 plus years, 5 plus years, you're basically, or if you're straight out of like, college, university, you're not trying to like work on a game that's like 11 years old. You want to work on something new and cutting edge, something on like a better engine. There's no point of you gaining experience on something that's from like 2010, because how is that going to translate into other studios? At least that's my thought. I mean, yeah, it's work experience, but how is that work experience on like Ungeon 3 or anything else, or like art assets, going to translate to some like brand new studio working on like cutting edge game design? So I can see why they're not filling those slots, especially like if you got 10 plus years experience as like a producer or a creative director for a game. Why would you come to something that's like DC Universe Online? What attractiveness could it be? And it can't be money related. It's not like DC's going to poach anyone from like LinkedIn and pay them a bunch of extra money, because if they could have done that in the first place, they would have kept Batuba and Sharon and these other developers that actually cared about the game and actually were trying to like work for the betterment of DC. They would have paid them more. So that's my thoughts. I just want to keep you guys aware. But I mean, that certainly explains everything about the development update here in terms of why that was so lacking and what not to expect. Now, this is even more telling in terms of posting the position and all the other positions that are still here. So I don't know what to expect going forward. I don't know what we're going to see going forward. I guess we just have to ride it out and see. But it sucks from my point of view, is because everyone, like, you're still going to get your content. But for me personally, I was always pushing for changes. And with these positions missing and no direction and like no one taking ownership basically, and no one's there to make the decisions, I worry about any kind of changes for the better happening. Any kind of artifacts changes or allies or power sets, supercharges, weapons. This whole game has, like, on a foundational level, needs a bunch of improvements, basically a stats revamp 3.0. And I feel like that's not only going to get pushed aside, but like not even be a thought because of everything else that's lacking. So let's continue this in the comments section, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.